Okay, today we are pulling the front sub assembly off this Fiero that Austin bought yesterday to put on the Chevette, or use pieces of it. Pull this out so we've got the calipers and brackets and all that stuff.
Because they are direct bolt-on for the Chevette and they are slightly bigger, which is all I need. Okay, here is the Fiero minus front subframe. And the subframe is over here. It's exactly like a Chevette subframe, only wider. But from the control arms out, it's a direct replacement. So we'll be using the, I think so far we'll be using the lower control arms because they mount the shock there instead of on the upper control arm. And I'll be using the brakes because it's a 5-lug, which will fit into the wheels I have ordered to match my rear wheels. So, now we have to figure out what to do with the 2-wheeled Fiero. Got the new tires for the front, new wheels. It's 18 by 8.5 with a 235/40 on it. And they don't fit. They're it's on the fender now, just hitting a little bit. I'm gonna try to roll those out a little bit, maybe, or I might have to cut the fenders. I'm not sure. And for giggles, we put one of the rears on this side. It doesn't fit either, but it looks pretty cool with that 335 on the front. We'll get this fender roller out here and see how that works. Okay, rolled the fender with the fender roller. I cut it to make it roll it a little further. And here you can kind of see, where's it at? There it is. Got it rolled as far as I could get it because the fender's so floppy that it doesn't push real good. So we've been experimenting with some lines to cut this fender out so the tire will fit. We're gonna go with this lower line here. Try to cut as little as possible. And we're gonna fire up the cutter and try to cut this out of here and see if the tire will fit on there and be able to turn. Here is the finished cut with the new tire on there. Let me back up here. There's the front and there's the back. It's all sitting at roughly at ride height. And with it sitting like this, it's got plenty of clearance to turn. We're gonna clean this, clean that up, do something with that. And the only thing we have to trim now is this little piece right here is hitting, so we'll cut this back to give us enough clearance to turn. And then we have to figure out what we're doing for suspension, springs and shocks and stuff. So haven't changed over to any of the Fiero control arms. Just mocking up the wheels and make sure they're gonna fit, and they look pretty good on there. Pretty much flush with the fender, so looking good. Got the Chevette up in the air, got the front tires off, getting ready to tear this suspension apart so we can replace it with the Fiero suspension. Need the lower control arms off the Fiero for the shock mounts, and gonna go ahead and put all new bushings in it while we got it apart. So gonna get started on this, and we'll see how that goes. After about an hour of grunting and groaning and smashed fingers, we got the front suspension all out, took it all out in one piece. Just go ahead and change the whole setup over from the Fiero. That way I'll have the backing plates and everything. I'll just take these rotors back off, put them on these spindles that have the right caliper brackets and stuff on them. So next step is to clean up underneath the car, and we'll get these other ones taken off the Fiero and put on here. Working On the front suspension of the Chevette today, I got the upper control arms cleaned up and put a fresh coat of paint on them. Gonna let that dry before I put the new poly bushings in. Gonna have to work on the lower control arms over here because the bushings were being real stubborn, and that one, which would be the rear lower control arm mount, came out real clean on both of them. But on both of them, the front one did not want to come out. It just left a little bit of rubber all the way around, so I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to get that out. Okay, got the rubbers out of these bushings finally. Had to get the torch out and get the rubber nice and hot, and then just scrubbed it out with a rubber brush or wire brush. Now get ready to put some paint on there so we can get the new bushings installed and mock these up in the car. Got the front control arms, got the new bushings installed. They look pretty fancy. Greased them up real good on everywhere the rubber touches the metal, so hopefully they won't squeak once they're installed. But the lowers, the paint is about dry, so I'll get to installing the rubbers in these. Got the new bushings installed in the lower control arms, so the only thing left to do before we put these back in the car is to work on this rear lower control arm mount, because to put the frame rail in how we wanted it, had to cut most of the metal off, so we're going to come back through here and attach it real well to the frame rail and then gusset it in so it's not as flexible, and hopefully that'll work. That's what we're going to get started on. Show the plates I put in off to the side of the lower control arm mount. Fully welded it all the way down the front of the mount to add some more rigidity back into it. Got the frame rails welded all back on, all the way around on the front. So just about ready to start mocking up other stuff like motor and transmission and all that fun stuff.